Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to Untold. Today's episode is with self-made entrepreneur, real estate developer, and CEO of SP Developments, Daniel Jaramillo. Daniel was my first boss back in 2023. He taught me a lot about real estate, but also about life as a whole. Our conversation was extremely interesting and involved insights not only about how to successfully work in the world of real estate, but also about Daniel's beginnings, some challenges he has faced in the way, and life in general. As you will find out, we had to record the episode twice, given that Genius Me forgot to unmute the microphone in the first run. This was extremely frustrating as our conversation was going great. Regardless, as I edited the second run just a few hours back, I realized that it came out equally as good and very insightful. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. And with that said, here is Daniel Jaramillo. Danny, thanks for finding the time again. Uh, for the listeners, this is the second time we started recording the podcast. We were 1 hour in to our conversation. It was an amazing conversation. We were laughing, good stories, jokes. And then I realized that the microphone was turned off, which was a big disappointment and the worst story to tell yet in the story of the podcast. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. And yeah, those things happen. So, and it does happen in business, as we were saying, prior podcast recording.
Yeah, that's exactly what we were on. Failures.
Making the best out of it, learning from them. So we're here. Thank you for inviting me. I'm excited to be here, and hopefully we can make it worth it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great conversation before. I hope we can touch on some of the points we were at. And I guess where we had started was you telling me a little bit about your start in your entrepreneurial career and who you are, what you do.
Okay, so briefly, currently I'm a real estate developer. I've been in multifamily for the past 25 years. I am currently building close to 1,800 units in Miami, and then another 600 units in Texas. I had a different past before. I was a property manager with a successful company as well. My entrepreneurship started way before then, maybe when I was about 15 years old. But it's been a long path, and I'm very excited to share whatever you want me to tell you.
I mean, let's start at the very beginning. Where does 15-year-old Daniel start making business, and what's the business you started doing? Yeah.
Okay, so let me see how much I can share from this story, or how much I should share. But yeah, when I was 14, I started building my own computer out of necessity, really, because the savings of building it, rather than, and by building it, I mean putting together a motherboard with a drive, and then with the memory sticks and the processor, and putting it together in the box, like basically buying all those parts separately. I was able to do that when I was 14. I learned how to do it, and I decided to start selling computers. And by my eighth computer, so that I sold to people that my dad knew, or people that were introduced to me, I went ahead and took it a step further and bought a machine that would replicate CDs. It was the first one to arrive in Colombia, and I started replicating data from computers so that people could just erase their data and keep using their drive. I remember back then, a hard drive would be about 420 megabytes, but a CD could hold 650. So you can just download the whole thing and erase your hard drive and then reuse it again, because it would make the computer slow and so forth. That was all good and working, and I would charge about $35 more or less for the service. And each one of these CDs back then was about $5 each. So I was making some money there, but then I would also replicate or do copies of CDs, which is legal if you kept one copy, a single copy of your own CD. Well, I started doing that for many people and kept a copy of my own. I saw the potential in selling that software, but I even went a step further and put together a bunch of programs into a single CD, close to 23 of them. I remember,
23 different softwares.
yes, in a single CD.
So that's how software used to be sold back in the day. Now it's a subscription. Back then it was a one-off purchase that you would do of like Microsoft Word.
Correct. And I could just go ahead and sell that for almost $200. But altogether, they were worth $10,000.
A fraction of the cost.
Exactly. So I would keep selling them. I remember grabbing a full bag of these CDs, taking them to the local technology mall in Bogota and selling them for $40 each at bulk. That was my bulk price, but my single price was $200. And then going back to my house in a cab because I couldn't drive, and earning so much money from that that it that I had to hire two secretaries. I had one during the day picking up all the calls while I was in school, and the other one at night so that she would start copying more CDs, and so I could get all the volume that I needed. At that point, I'd already had about 4 machines, and things were blowing up. Like I would be so busy.
You were known in like the tech world in Bogota.
Oh yeah, because I was the only one doing it. I would be selling to a specific guy in that mall, and he would sell to the others for a step up. He would charge an extra price, but I wouldn't have to deal with everybody. And it got very big. It got too big probably because then the police, or the Colombian FBI, if you want to call it, came in and almost arrested me for doing this. It ended. We had a legal case and everything. I'm not proud to say it. I'm proud of all the work that I put into it. That I was able to socialize with so many people, but it was a full enterprise. It was. Those were hard times, but they were exciting times. And that's how I started my world.
That's your first venture.
Yeah, my first venture.
And where did you go from there?
Well, I had to stop doing business for a while because I was about to kill my mother with this, with what I did. So I said, okay, I'm not doing any more businesses, and even less if they were illegal. So that I stayed put. I improved my grades. I finished my school, and
You moved to the U.S.
I moved to the U.S. after graduating. In my first year here, I started working right away while I was still studying. So it was hard because I was doing my university in the morning and then working the afternoons, trying to study as much as I could. But I had to. My family, we didn't. We had to, and my brother as well. We both had to work and study at the same time. We were able to put together an interesting dealership, a car dealership, that we ended up selling close to 3,000 cars. I remember I was a salesperson then, and that was my job, like trying to convince people to buy things. So also very interesting because I learned how to accept no's. That was one important thing, and how to sometimes convert those no's into yeses. So I was very successful at convincing, and that took me to 3,000 sales.
And then part of that was also finding solutions, which was your gateway into getting into the real estate world.
Yeah. So real estate was not something that I chose. Real estate was something that happened to me. It's something that kind of like just flew into the door, into the office, into the door. There was this guy that owed us two vehicles, and he couldn't pay it. But he offered and said, well, I have this 2-bedroom unit, a condo that I'm renting out to Section 8. It's worth close to $40,000. It's rented for $650. It's a government program, a Section 8 program. And I quickly did the math, a month or 2 months later, I saw that those numbers were really good. So we started exchanging 2 cars for 1 apartment.
For every second
For
car.
every car that we sold, we didn't buy more cars. We just bought more apartments. And it took me to, I want to say, close to 80 units, maybe less. And when I started telling this stories about how well I did with 1 condo, or 1 4-unit building, whatnot, investors would come in quite interested in investing with us. And they should did. They came in and put in their money. They trusted their money with me. And I would choose new buildings to buy. We would still put a loan. That's called syndication. I didn't even know what that meant, which is something that I'm currently doing still, at a different level,
At a bigger scale.
bigger scale, bigger numbers, but same thing, same conversation that I need to have with all the investors. And it took me to a portfolio of close to 500 units. At that point, I decided to create a property management company that would manage all the units. That's called Strategic Properties. That company grew to about 2,600 units, and later with a new partner up to 4,800 units. And that new partnership was the one that allowed me to get out of the property management business, or at least the day-to-day activity, and venture into development, which is what I'm currently doing.
What you're doing now.
Exactly. So now, I started this business, or the official business of development, close to 6 years ago, more or less. And it's grown significantly. We have, our mining project in Pompano, we have 1,800 units in the pipeline, 1,000 of them that are being built as we speak. Close to $550 million of total value of the just construction cost on those buildings. They were well appraised over 700 million. So it's been wild times. It's been good.
It's been a big journey, a long journey, and a rewarding journey.
Yes.
You love what you do.
I do. I think I would probably love anything else that I would do. I wouldn't say that it's because it's real estate. I think it's just because I've spent so many hours at it that I've become better at it and understand it better. And now my peers have some type of admiration that they want to inquire with me about deals, and we do deals together. We joint venture with bigger companies. So it's just a matter of, I think that I've been liking it more as I've been getting better at it.
I mean, no wonder we enjoy the things we're good at.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's something very interesting. I find often people are fixated on figuring out what's their passion.
Yeah.
Instead of figuring out, oh, what am I good at? Or if they can't figure out what they're good at, let's get good at something. And I believe that when an activity enables your life, like real estate does to you,
Yeah.
you naturally, eventually grow to like it.
That's absolutely true. I think that there's a difficult part of getting better at something. And there's that point where you're about to give up, but you've spent just already a few, maybe even a few hundred hours at it. Or sometimes it's a dozen hours and people just quit right away. What I guess I have, and I've seen on many successful people, is that they're willing to push a little further. And I can tell you, I'm horrible at golf still. I know I'm going to get better. I think I will, but I'm pushing towards that line so that I can stick to it. And it's frustrating, and it will keep being frustrating until I'm better at it. And I know I'm going to enjoy it even more
when you're good at it.
when I'm good at it. But you have to be patient. You have to have the necessary perseverance to push through that. So, how many hours? Depending on what you're doing, whether it's skiing. I know you're a tennis player. I'm sure that, well, you start early though, but even that, I mean, we all have the moment of like, oh, I can't keep doing this. I'm not good at it. And only if you are able to push through it will you really know. And what ends up happening is that you are going to be good at it. It's just, it takes time, it takes
Yeah.
effort.
Do you think that's one of the traits that are essential for entrepreneurs to succeed? Patience?
Yeah, I would put it more like grit.
Grit.
Grit. So that grit is the patience to persevere through difficulty. I don't know if that's the definition, but I just made that up. But
Makes sense to me.
that's how I see it, though, because it's just really having that patience to go through difficult things, so something difficult that's hard to master, and keep doing it until you're able to understand it or do it well. And once you get there, you will start seeing people around you asking questions about that. And I often do it at conferences. So when I go out on conferences and explain how I did what I did and try to add value to whatever the people are there in the audience. Um, I think that that's where they can pick up something from my experience is keep trying, keep at it, ask many questions, try to get somebody to tell you which route to take, and be curious, but most importantly, persevere.
Speaking about perseverance, we already went through this story a few minutes ago. And what has been the hardest thing you've had to face as an entrepreneur?
Sure. So
Or one of the hardest?
yeah, well,
I'm sure there's many times.
there's many times. There's many times, but one in particular that I like to look back and remember how I felt then makes me hopeful that whatever I'm going through right now, if it's hard, then I know I can push it forward. And the specifics of it, I had to survive the real estate crash, 2007. Um, and it was really hard. I had been just very, very recently. And I remember that everybody at the office left. I had about, I don't know, 20 employees or so. I stayed late and I did an exercise of pulling out the spreadsheets on all the properties that I own.
How many at this point?
I think it was 18 or 17 properties, buildings. So it was close to 500 units. Um, they they were smaller buildings. Some of them were 60 units, some of them 20, some 4 units. But anyway, I did the exercise and I knew how to value them. I I wrote down the value for each one based on what their net operating income is. I did a formula. That's how you value real estate. And I ended up getting a value of close to 20 million, more or less. And I said, okay, fine. Now,
That's if you sold everything.
if I sold everything and I didn't owe any money, they were worth 20 million. But then I went to the balance sheets and I added how much was my debt. And I was owing 28 million that night.
That night.
That night, yes. And I looked at those two numbers. The delta is 8 million. And I remember doing a quick math calculation and see if I were to find a job that would pay me 400,000, which I don't know that I could have. I've never been hired by anybody. I've never been an employee.
You've always been your own boss.
Exactly, which is not entirely great. I wish I had more mentors in my life, but anyway, that's a different conversation. In any case, $8 million, if I spent to survive only 100,000, then I would have left 300,000. How many years would that take me to, to pay my debt?
Over 24 years.
It's crazy.
Quick math.
So I said, like, okay, this can't be possible. And I cried. I remember I literally cried. I don't know that I've cried many times in my life, but that was one. And while I was sobbing, I remember saying, there must be a different way out. Like, I can't even find a job for that amount of money, and less in that type of economy. There must be a different way out. And I started figuring it out even that same night. And that the very next day, I called up the banks. I started with the bank that I owed the most money to. It was Washington Mutual. I think it was about $11 million that I owed them alone. And I explained to the asset manager guy, saying, listen, you have this, we have this asset, you guys are owed this amount of money. I'm the best property manager for these properties. I'm the one that knows the best. They're occupied. It's not my fault that the market crashed. I want to make things well. Like, I can repay that debt, but I need two things from you. And I can't pay that much debt first. And I cannot pay interest for the next few years while I get back on my feet.
So you need time and you need a smaller
a break, yeah, on the amount of money owed. And I got negotiated Washington Mutual down to $3 million less. So they knocked it off from 11 to 8 million, I believe. It wasn't easy though. It was a whole process. It was legal. I had to spend money on the process. It was a difficult challenge, but I was able to do it. And when I got down to the other banks, I went through the same thing, and I asked them no interest for 3 years.
they accepted.
They accepted. So I did all these things. I remember one property dropped all the way from 4.5 million to 2 million after we negotiated.
A bank, one of the
banks, yeah. And they just cut off our loan significantly, just to recover something from it. So we were able to arrange those agreements with all the banks. So I never ended up even losing one single property to foreclosure, which many people did. That's what everybody else was.
Most people
just, okay, I owe $1 million on a property that's worth 700.
But
I'm not going to work for the bank. I'll just stop paying, and I'll collect the rents while I'm at it, and I'll try to squeeze all the money that I can from the property while they foreclose on me. I didn't want to do that, so I did something more genuine, and I ended up reaching a deal with them. By the time, fast forward 5 years, I had more equity in the properties 5 years later than I ever had at my highest point. So things really changed. I have to be patient. I have to work really hard. None of this was easy. It was stressful as you can imagine, but it was achievable. And that made me believe in myself, and believe in things that I can change things, that I can accomplish things. And it made a difference. I think the biggest lessons learned in life come from failures rather than success. And I remember doing partnerships nowadays with very successful companies or wealthy individuals, in which that's my selling point. I'm like, don't ask me how many good deals I've done. Ask me how many bad deals I've survived. Like, I've made so many mistakes that I've learned from that I'm not going to repeat them again. So with me, you have kind of like an insurance company knowing that I'm not going to mess up the
And
things that I've already done.
and that's a lot the value you provide
Yeah.
in terms of now in your development business. Part of the value you give to your investors is the know-how.
Yeah. Correct. That experience of just like stop right there. Don't do that. I tried that. Doesn't work. We might get in trouble doing that. Let's not do that type alone because this, and that happens. Yield maintenance law, for instance. It's like, oh, you can't do that if you want to sell in 5 years. Now I know because I made that mistake. Um, don't do a Freddie Mac loan if you want to achieve this much, or don't do uh, a, a hard money loan if you want to do other things like it's. So it's just having that. I guess that's what you call experience. Experience is just making mistakes and learning from it.
Yeah, learning,
Yeah.
important. What are the biggest lessons that you've learned from so many years in real estate?
Well, I think it's a word that I really like, and it's very related to real estate is leverage. And there's the obvious financial use of the word leverage when you borrow from a bank and make money on it. But I like to think of leverage as leverage on like social leverage. In other words, finding people that you can leverage yourself with, that know more than you on certain aspects. Like an architect is always going to know far more about intelligent design on a building than me. And I can bring some ideas, but I need to be humble enough to know that I'm not as an expert as he is. And if I were, then I would just do it myself. And I'm humble enough to know that I want to be the least intelligent person in the room, surrounded by experts. And so I learned from them. I think you need to surround yourself with more capable people than yourself to achieve great things.
It comes back to the idea you were speaking about before of mentorship. It
Yeah.
it's very important to find the people that are gonna be able to teach you something you didn't know before, and it speeds up your arrival at success.
Yes. Mentorship. So I've had mentors, many of them. I wish I had paid even more attention to some of them. One of them was, of course, my father. And the obvious ones would be my partners that I had. I've typically had partners that were way older than I was, at least 20, 25 years older. So they had a lot more experience. And even more so, I find every other meeting that I meet a developer or somebody that has or a bank executive, I try to find as many valuable lessons from them as I can. In other words, humble myself to be able to absorb more information.
Always assume that they know something you don't,
Exactly. And sometimes it's just a matter of asking the right questions.
and I think it's even a case of it doesn't even matter who you're speaking with.
Oh yeah.
I think anyone can teach you something you had no clue about.
All the time. All the time. Even with kids. Like from now they are because they have a different point of view. And yes, they're young, but they're learning and they've had already a bunch of experiences that I don't even know about. And they could bring, who knows, maybe something they heard from another father in the community or whatever, or some great advice from a mother.
Or even things that they hurt themselves, that they do themselves.
Yeah.
I think nowadays, at least thinking about my brother-in-law, your friend Juan
Yeah.
Fernando, who I want to bring to the podcast sometime soon as well. Um, my two nephews,
Yeah.
they're two very bright kids, like your own, and I think these kids are exposed to things that older generations have never been exposed to. Like
Yeah.
AI, the way to use like technology, they just leverage it in a complete different way that even I do sometimes, even though I work in the tech world.
You can always have a very simple conversation down the street. It's just a matter of, are you open to receive input? And most importantly, it's like, how do you, like an Uber drive? If you ask the right questions, you'll probably learn
A lot.
something from that Uber driver. Most of them have another job, and they'll give you a great experience on whatever, even relationship advice. Like, I've had it, maybe a few drinks. It's like, oh my God, I'm going through this with my wife. And they come up with a brilliant explanation or a brilliant advice.
I had never thought about that.
Of course, it's just a matter of asking the right questions.
It's looking out for opportunities.
Yeah,
which is, I think, it's one of the things that I love the most about the previous recording that didn't get recorded. And you told me the story about the red cars.
Yeah. So the story of the red cars is, if I were to ask you today, how many red cars did you see on the street? What would you say?
No clue.
Okay,
I'm not counting.
not count. What if I were to say that I give you $100 for each car that you count tomorrow? Would you find a lot of them?
Yeah, I won't miss one.
You wouldn't miss one, I'm sure. So that's my life. That's my everyday life. I find it that every conversation that I'm having, an Uber drive, barbecue, anything, is one opportunity in which I will see a red car. And and that and again, like, I'll give you an example. Maybe at a barbecue, somebody says like, "Oh, guys, I didn't come with my wife because I'm getting divorced," and everybody's like trying to ask why and all these questions, and probably I'll follow with like, "Wow, are you selling your house?" Like, so, and not to be insensitive or anything. It's just putting it as an example, as a very clear opportunity. It's like, okay, they're probably going to have to get rid of their house. They may have to get rid of it quickly. And rather to sell it to anybody else, I buy in. Let me see if there's opportunity there. But and so every interaction that I do have, I try and find that red car, that opportunity. And that's exactly what happened with how I got into real estate. I could have just sold that apartment and bought 2 more cars. It's just that it opened a door for me. It made me go there. And then once I crunched the numbers and asked a few questions, I arrived at an amazing moment in my life. I'm like, "Oh, you know what? Let me try this a little further." Let's to another apartment, another one, and that's what took me to where I'm at nowadays. So I didn't miss on that red car opportunity. I wonder how many I have missed. So I'm sure I have. But but yeah, that's those things. And even that reminds me, the current portfolio that we have is mostly multifamily. But I remember another opportunity that I took was when I remodeled my house.
Yeah.
So I remodeled my house. Uh, I'm about to thank my GC and I'll say, "Hey, congratulations on an amazing job. Thank you very much. Appreciate it." Uh, and I said jokingly, so I said, "We should do this again." And he's like, "Let's do it. I have an opportunity." I'm like, "No, no, no, dude. I in multifamily development.
I have a lot of projects going on
Yeah, I don't know. What is it that you're asking?" It's like, "Well, no, I have a house that my next neighbor is selling.
because they're getting divorced.
They're getting divorced, and they're selling it very cheap. It's 14,000 square foot. We can build an amazing house there and sell it. You already know that I can do a good job. Why don't we give it a try?" I'm like, well, I started looking at the numbers. I saw the red car, and I said, "You know what? Let's do it." And we partner up. We built a house, 4,800 square feet. We sold it for 4.8 million. We broke the record for Biscayne Park,
Like the most expensive.
most expensive house per square foot. Um, and then other houses followed with that same price afterwards, but we were the ones that broke it. And it was, I'm very happy to do that. Now I have a portfolio of close to 28, 26 million, I think, with them.
Only with the houses.
Just houses and a very small multifamily, 21 units. So if you put those together, it's about 26 million, I think.
Which is funnily almost the number that you got before the financial crisis in debt.
That's right. And so it's a side business that's now worth 26 million. It's close to that. Yeah, I guess that's a good point.
And then the main business, which is SP Developments, the multifamily,
Yeah.
much bigger.
Yeah, it's close to 550 million with all together, all the current developments that we have.
Yeah.
So, but still, I'm very excited about that smaller venture that I did take. Very appreciative of the work. Now they work from my office here at my office, and we're doing amazing things. We have now a beautiful house that we're selling for close to 6.8 million in Miami Shores. We have another duplex that's selling for, I don't know, or that one we're probably gonna keep, and then the multifamily building that we're building in with Nordic. So things are picking up with them as well as we are with the bigger multifamilies, but all very exciting.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
What would you say are the most important things when assessing a real estate investment?
So assessing a real estate investment, first thing, easy one. Buy for less. Period.
Buy cheap.
Buy cheap. You make your money when you buy in real estate. You don't. People think that they're making their money when they sell. When somebody's buying a condo here in Miami for 500,000, that's speculation. That's basic because they're buying a $500,000 condo that's worth 500,000. So their money to be made is basically just praying or speculating that prices are going to go up.
Hanging on hope. They're
Just hoping that things are going to get better. That's no way to do business, in my opinion. Like, I think that a lot of people have been burnt, especially Latin Americans, when they try to bring their millions and buy a couple condos. I had the experience with one particular Venezuelan family. They ended up buying $6.5 million in condos, just condos, brand new condos, not even the ones that are, I mean, right from the developer. Like they were the first buyers, and they haven't even been built, but they bought it from the very beginning, thinking they were getting in at a great price, and the prices were going to soar. Fast forward 3 years, they had lost close to $2.2 million on it. So the joke goes kind of like, how do you arrive at $1 million, or how do you get to $1 million in real estate in Miami? And that's sometimes how I start my conferences. Well, you break 2 million, you lose 1 million, and then you're left with one. So, and it's sad but true, and it's the reality for many in real estate investors. They just expect that things will go up. No, you need to buy low. So that's the first thing. The other thing is separate residential from commercial. Anything that's commercial has a component of how much money does it make.
Yeah. So revenue and costs.
Exactly. So once you have your revenue minus operating costs, you get net operating income. That net operating income is what you make unlevered on a project. Be either office, apartments, warehouses, storage, whatever you're getting into that has a revenue, you divide that revenue by a cap rate, something that the industry dictates, and it fluctuates sometimes up and down. Um, and that's going to tell you how much a property's worth.
Mhm.
So as long as you're able to buy at a at a lower price and sell for a higher price, then that's your bet. And you can do that by increasing the revenue sometimes, decreasing the operating expenses, pushing that NOI up, and then just flipping it, selling it for a higher price. So just understand those basics, and then you should be fine.
Yeah. And that leads me to the question of, in real estate, I think for your first for your second as an investment, that's a rule of thumb. But when we're speaking about your first home, like your first property, primary property,
Yeah.
where you're planning to live, are you more of a buying or renting mentality type of person?
To answer quickly, rent. I own.
Why?
Yes, good question. I I made a deal with my wife, and she really wanted to own
Hmm.
because she wanted to set her roots, and she's that type of person. I don't care moving around, but she wanted to set her roots, and I said, "Fine, we'll do it, but it has to be an intelligent investment." And to do an intelligent investment, we have to be patient first. So we're not going to buy just any house that's on the market that we like. We're going to wait, and find the right opportunity. So I ended up doing that. It was a different market back then. We were able to get it really cheap. We put some money into it, and now it's worth twice as much, our investment. So it went well for me. But if you were to buy a house today, and I'll give you some data that maybe I'd like to share perhaps with you
Aladdin.
that you can add into the video, is that in the last few years, I think it's 3 or 5 years, the delta between buying or renting had been close to $400. That's almost near $1,300 today. So it more than tripled, if I remember the numbers correctly, to own the same type of house versus renting it. So in other words, you're spending an extra $1,000 for just saying this is mine, and in hoping that as it appreciates, then it will make up for that $1,000 a month.
Yeah, but even if it does, if we're speaking about your primary home,
Yeah,
you're always going to need a primary home. And it's likely that if your house appreciated
correct.
with you living in it and not doing, improving the piping and uh, i- adding some square foot into it, likely all of the houses around you appreciate it as well.
You're absolutely right.
So
You're if you're going to switch one apple for another apple,
yeah,
it's or just for a bigger apple, it's the same type of apple. It doesn't work. You're absolutely right. I think. I mean, if I were to turn back time and I had a flexible enough partner, I would buy a fourplex. I would live in it. I would homestead it so that it gives me the benefit, the tax benefit of
what is homesteading it?
homesteading it is saying that it's your main primary residence.
Okay, so you
So, and by doing so, you get a benefit here in Florida that if you're single, you don't get you don't have to pay capital gains for the first $250,000. If you're married, it goes up to $500,000. So in other words, you can just change houses every other year because you have to wait a full year to claim the benefit, and don't pay any capital gain taxes on every fourplex that you're in. But while you're at it, you're renting the other 3 units.
you're basically living for free,
Correct.
paying your
So
mortgage with the
exactly. And then just go on to the next one, into the next one, into the next one, making maybe 300,000 on one, 400,000 on the other one, and not paying any capital gain taxes. until you have a big enough or big enough chunk of money that you want to start doing more investments.
Maybe
And
not on your primary home, maybe
right.
on a
And
secondary home.
at that point, I would just go ahead and buy multifamily buildings and rent my primary residence. Because there's another number, which is nowadays you can, if you buy $1 million house, probably it only rents for about $5,000 a month. So like 0.5% of the monthly, or the revenue is only the monthly revenue. It's only 0.5% of the value of the property. That's peanuts. That's not enough to make up for your mortgage payment, your insurance, taxes, maintenance, all that. You're going to be losing money. So why lose money on your own property? Why not just, if you like that $1 million property, rent it for the 5,000. Let the other, let the owner be
The one losing the
the
money.
one losing the money, not you. And what do you do with your $1 million? Invest it into things that have closer to a 1% return on their revenue. So I would do something like that, and I still do, of course, with the properties that I own. But in the minute that they're not doing those type of returns, I sell them and change them again for other ones.
Makes complete sense. So to run it down, primary home, if you can rent,
Yeah.
you're making at least in Florida and Miami, a delta of 1.3K from renting to buying.
Yeah.
Secondary home, find deals, go in cheap, sell, go and enter low, sell high,
Correct.
and just flip that as many times as possible.
Correct.
How much capital do you need to start to enter the real estate world?
So
Realistically,
yeah. So funny that you ask, because my experience with that has been that that's probably the number one excuse why people don't do it,
young people.
especially young people. But even the ones that have some money limit their buying power to whatever money they have. So they all give the same excuse, like, "Oh, I don't have enough money or no money to do a real estate deal." But I'll give you an example of a 20-year-old. A 20-year-old that has a lot of energy and wants to buy property in Alaska. Maybe it's an Uber driver even. It's like, well, why don't you? It's like, well, I don't have the money, or I don't have the experience, or I don't know how, or whatever. It's like, or I don't know contacts. They'll try to make as many excuses as possible, just not to hold themselves accountable for that they being able to do it. To go back to your question, you don't need any money.
To start in the real estate world.
No, you don't need any money.
And that's what you tell them.
That's what I'm telling you right now. You don't need any money. You can do real estate deals that go way beyond your whatever you have in your pocket. And I'll give you a simple example. And I'll use some of the words of one of my mentors. Find a deal. Maybe you're the guy at the barbecue and hear the person saying, that there's a divorce. And maybe you're just the one asshole that asks,
What are you doing with the house?
what did you do with the house? Maybe the one with the balls to just
ask the
say,
question.
to actually ask the question, and maybe they say like, I don't know, like, yeah, I guess we're gonna have to sell it. Well, you bring it out to somebody that you know does have the money, and you tell them, hey, I have an amazing deal. I know this property is going to be worth, because now you have all the data. You can find it in Zillow, find how much it's worth. You can ask a friend that's an appraiser or somebody that knows more than you, and just check that. Oh, wait, this guy's going to sell $1 million house for 800 because they need a quick sale. They just need somebody to come in and just buy from them. You can ask your buddy with the 800,000, put in the money, and let's be partners on this. I want to take those percentage out of the gains, just the gains. and you don't need to pay me nothing right now. Now you've become a partner on a deal.
Zero capital invested.
Zero capital investment. I remember I, I've been that guy though. I've been both of those guys, by the way. I've been the one
Paying someone because they found you a good deal,
yes.
and the one charging someone
Yeah.
because you found them a good deal.
Exactly. So and one of them, actually I had a conversation with him today. This happened what, 5 years ago? He comes to my office and says, like, hey Daniel, I really want to put together a portfolio of properties. Like a few units, whatever. Can you, but I don't have money at all. Nothing. Zero. Can you help me? I'm like, very simple. Just bring me an opportunity. If it's good enough, I'll cut you the deal. He owns 25% of the company, of the gains, of now, and I just did the math. It's $1.2 million.
He's gonna make $1.2 million.
No, he's going to make 25% of that.
Okay,
But
still a lot.
still a lot. And what he did is he brought three very interesting deals. I did the underwriting for, well, he had done it already, but I checked his numbers. Like, wow, this is really good. Let me, I'll put in the cash. And I ended up putting 100% of the money required. He didn't put anything. I kept managing it. And now we want to sell. So we have to do the numbers. And, he's going to make close to $300,000 from the deal. Didn't put a single dollar.
So a lot of it is just self-limiting beliefs.
Yes. Yeah. Very, very good point.
You need to believe it.
Yeah. The believing is, like, for me. Well, I remember a book that I read when I was 15-year-old. 15. Yeah. When I was 15-year-old and doing all that business that I was explaining. It's by Mary Kay Ash. And she's saying that the bees have a particularly bulky body with disproportionate wings that shouldn't allow them to fly well. And they're better designed insects, in other words.
Mhm.
But the bees don't know it, and they fly. And I remember that's the icon that she holds. She holds a diamond necklace of a bee as her reminder that you can do things beyond your capabilities, let's say, or what you think are capabilities, just by ignoring your limitations. So I don't know. I guess if you'd asked me 10 years ago whether I could have a $550 million portfolio, I'd say that's crazy. I mean, yes, I have, I don't know, back then, 700 units and maybe 20 million or a little bit more, whatever. But I would have never imagined that I would be at this point and where I'm at right now. So I'm very grateful. But it opened up my mind. I said, like, maybe I can do.
So now you're a bigger believer.
I'm a bigger believer. I think so.
And do you think that, two questions. Do you think that back then you had trouble believing? And do you think you still have trouble believing in some way, as much as you're a bigger believer than you used to be?
Yes, you keep pushing your boundaries. And yes, the most, actually, if I could teach myself something, like go back and talk to me when I'm 20 years old, I would just tell them, like, you can do amazing things. You haven't done them yet, but you're going to be able to do amazing deals, really big deals. Believe in yourself. And I guess I started believing as the deal sizes grew bigger and bigger, to the point where now I still sit comfortably with bigger developers and really believe that I belong there, that I'm just have the same right of sharing the boardroom that they're in as well.
You're the Wolfpack.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. Thank you.
Yeah, we spoke about it before, and I want to push you there. I want to push you in this point because I remember we spoke about it.
Okay.
Why are you not doing bigger deals? You could probably do bigger deals than you do already. You do pretty big deals, but like
So yeah, I've been seeing the bigger deals that have been fermented or been done in downtown Miami and Brickell, and they're $1 billion deals. And I wonder, I don't know. Okay, you're putting me on the spot because I think that with this conversation, then I should, right? I should believe that I'm able to do $1 billion deal.
you should.
Yeah. So who knows? Maybe it's the next one, right?
Maybe the next one is the billion dollar deal.
I'll cut you into it.
Yeah, now I have a finding fee
Fighting people.
because I found the hope in your head.
You pushed me enough to that level. Okay.
I'll keep you accountable on it
Yes. There we go. There we go.
for sure. Before we close out, Daniel, last thing would be, what would you give as an advice to younger people? You said you used to, or you kind of would have wanted to have more mentors when you were younger.
Yeah.
If you could advise younger people, what would you tell them?
So mentoring, if I had even more mentors than I did, or I had paid more attention to the mentors that I did have, I think that I could have fast paced my journey a lot more. Maybe I could have taken a few shortcuts, or let me put it, maybe not the word shortcut, but rather taking bigger leaps. So in other words, of jumping from the $1 million deal to the $1.3 million deal, instead jumping from the $1 million deal to the $5 million deal. And it just finding that limitation in my mind back then didn't allow me to go further. What mentors can do for you is that they can show you a way, and they can teach you how to get there.
And they can help you save time and keep you from committing mistakes if you pay attention.
Yeah, exactly. And not all mentors are you're gonna have all kinds of mentors. The ones that tell you how to be organized in your work, the ones that show you how to have a vision, the ones that teach you the math behind it. Pay attention to all of them, put all of that together, and make your own plan and push it.
And it comes back to the failure. You need to fail. I like this. I think it's a comedy. I watched it in like a comedy bit somewhere. But it was a guy saying that if you're not missing a flight every now and then, you're wasting too much time in airports.
Oh, that's a good one.
And I think as much as it's like a funny remark, I think it's true. You need to fail every now and then. And if you're not failing every now and again, you're probably not trying hard enough.
You're absolutely
not
right.
challenging yourself enough.
You're absolutely right. And I tell that to my kids. Sometimes I ask them, like, what have you failed at today? And not what have you accomplished today? See the difference? Is because accomplishment is something that they're expected to be able to do, but basically they showed up and did something that they were already supposed to be doing. Whereas failure is something that they were able to do, or they were risky enough to take a leap of faith and try something and fail at it.
Yeah, they put themselves in a challenging position.
Yeah, I remember there's this very strong guy. I think he's very famous, but
Schwarzenegger?
No. It's a recent one. Some guy started recording him how he worked out and why he was better than the others. I don't remember his name, but anyway, the what he did differently than the others is that everybody would set up their weight to achieve, the 10 count, let's say, and they get really close to the 10 count, but make it. This guy, 80% of the times failed. 80. So he was only being successful at 20% of his tries.
So meaning he didn't even get to the first rep.
No, he would get
to the 10th rep.
to the 10th rep. So instead of getting to the 10th rep with the weight that he chose, he was only able to get to the 8th or 9th. He would stop. So he couldn't make it. One was he doing differently. He was putting more weight than he could bear. Whereas the other ones were choosing the right weight so that they were able to achieve the 10.
We need to push our boundaries.
Exactly. So eventually, now comparing one to the other, this guy was already carrying more weight than they were because he was pushing himself further. So yeah, don't be, for younger generations, don't be afraid of failure. Just be able to have that grit to wipe the dirt off and get back up and running and say, I'll do it again.
I love this, Danny. It was so nice to have you in the podcast, and you have so many great insights. I would love to have you again sometime soon. We're in Miami right now. Lovely Miami. Either next time I'm here or maybe sometime online.
Absolutely.
I would love to have a follow-up conversation, ask you about how you're pushing the envelope and like continue to push your boundaries, maybe signing a $1 billion deal, hopefully. If you're not, I'm still interested to continue to have this. It was very rewarding, taught me a lot, reminded me of how fun it was to work with you 2 years ago. And I hope that we can do that sometime soon again.
Absolutely. I'm very glad to have this, to repeat it twice.
Hey, yeah, I'm sorry. Next time it won't happen.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Danny.